With WWE Survivor Series now going 2 years in a row without having actual Survivor Series matches, well, that got me wondering, what are some of the very best non-Survivor Series Survivor Series matches that ever took place? Well, that's the topic of this episode, because today... A big thank you for the support over on Patreon to the Reflection of Perfection, JPS, and Freehand. Thanks to all of you as well as everyone else on Patreon. Your support makes a big difference. Thank you. Now, it would take until 1998 before WWE had a Survivor Series pay-per-view without any of the traditional elimination tag matches that we've come to associate with, well, the Survivor Series. But just 7 years prior in 1991, and that would be the first time ever that there was a match on the card that wasn't one of those tag bouts. Which was it? Well, it's the opening entry for this list. Alright, so this match in 1991, believe it or not, is the first time ever that we had a non-Survivor Series match on the Survivor Series pay-per-view, not including dark matches. And wouldn't you know, it would be for the WWF World Championship. Yup, it took until 1991 for this to happen. Now, this is by no means a clinic. However, it would be the first time that the Phenom ever captured the world title, and it happened just 1 year after his debut in the company. And the finish of the bout would also set up the future feud between Hogan and Flair, even though that wouldn't be paid off until WCW, at least as far as television is concerned. But considering that this is the first of its kind, it certainly has a place on this list, just for that alone. And also, think of how good this match did of setting up the next pay-per-view this Tuesday in Texas. Man, when are we getting another one of those, by the way? Oh, and real quick, before we continue with the list, please make sure that you're subscribed to the Thinking Fans channel, as it really does help. And also, please leave a like if you could. Anyway, let's move on. Now, just because we're not including traditional Survivor Series elimination tag matches, that doesn't mean we're not having any tag matches of any kind, or in this case, steel cage tag team matches. As here, we have the Dudleys versus the Hardys in a steel cage. This bout happened in 2001, and it was all part of the long-winded and ultimately disappointing WCW invasion angle, or at least the conclusion of it anyway, because in this match, this was the Dudley Boys and the Hardys combining both the WWE Tag Team Championship belts with that of the WCW ones, with the winner of the match becoming the undisputed tag team champions. And sure, while the invasion angle didn't live up to the hype, and while we were used to seeing these teams alongside Edge and Christian in TLC matches, this match was a pleasant surprise, and it even showed that after the cell was invented, a steel cage match still has a purpose, and a really entertaining one at that. And so, I just have to give credit to both the Hardys and the Dudleys for proving that they didn't need TLC or a cell in order to get people hooked. Oh, and also, technically speaking, the Dudleys can also say now, thanks to this match, that they had won the WCW Tag Team Championship, as another feather to add in their cap. And speaking of things that didn't live up to the WCW hype, here we have Booker T versus Chris Benoit, the Best of 7 series, 2005. Now sure, this was nowhere near as good as their series that they had for the television title over in WCW, which was absolutely outstanding. But nevertheless, this time around for the United States Championship was still really good. With this, WWE obviously knew that they had a surefire winner when it came to these two working against each other. And so they decided to repeat the booking, and as far as I'm concerned, that was a very good thing, especially considering that it all kicked off at Survivor Series. And sure, while competing for the United States Championship was a step down since both men were already previous world champions, and it sucks that Randy Orton ended up having to sub in for Booker T, but just taking this match for what it's worth, it's still a masterclass for when professional wrestling is done right. And so for you younger fans out there that really only know Cesaro and Sheamus as your Best of 7 series, well, I pity you. Alright, let's travel back to the faraway time of 2018, when Survivor Series was all about brand supremacy, champion versus champion, Raw versus SmackDown. As now, we're about to turn to one of the internet's favorite matches for some reason. As now, we have Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar. Here, Big O Brock was the champion of Raw, and Daniel Bryan was the planet's champion over on SmackDown. And so, as was tradition, both champions would go head-to-head at Survivor Series, in order to make it perfectly clear which belt matters more to WWE. And now they call the World Heavyweight Champion a consolation prize. Anyway, this match was great storytelling, with Lesnar going through his normal routine of absolutely punishing his opponent, so much so that even though Daniel Bryan was a heel at the time, we still began to get pangs of sympathy for him. And just when the audience was hooked and convinced that this would be a total squash, D. Bryan managed to pull it all the way around, even getting to convince some fans that he actually stood a shot, as they start to tell the story that smaller, more technical wrestlers had a better chance against Lesnar as opposed to big hulking brutes. Which is true as long as you ignore what happened 2 years prior with Goldberg, and I often do. This was a completely wonderful match, but it doesn't rank higher because, well, that leads us to our next entry. I feel like I must be living in some sort of weird vacuum where everyone forgets that the Daniel Bryan-Brock match story was exactly the same as the year prior with AJ Styles and Brock Lesnar instead. The only difference is that AJ did it sooner, and quite frankly, he also did it better. While Daniel Bryan is incredibly versatile, AJ Styles, let's be real here, has a wider range and a deeper arsenal to draw from. And so, in my opinion, he's able to add more variety to the two-move wonder that is Brock Lesnar. And also, I feel that since AJ Styles was a babyface, he was able to work with Brock a little more instead of having a heel-on-heel match. And also, I'm amazingly happy that this bout occurred because allegedly Brock refused to work with Jinder Mahal, and thus AJ would take the belt off of the modern-day Maharaja, finally drawing the Jinder experiment to a close. So I'm always going to be thankful for that. But now, going back to the Daniel Bryan situation, since AJ Styles told this story first, for me it had way more of an impact, no pun intended. Bryan's match was still great, it's still on this list, but because of this match in 2017, well, I already knew this tune. The Planet's Champion was just doing a cover version that didn't quite live up to the original. So as far as I'm concerned, the phenomenal one should get a lot more credit. But hey, I guess being an unsung hero is the story of AJ Styles' life. Yeah, so I'm not trying to start a thing here, but AJ or Daniel Bryan? I'm on the side of the phenomenal one all day. Okay, as good as the War Games matches that we got this year were, I'm not talking about them, instead I'm talking about last year's, as I'm still blown away by how much I really liked it. War Games is one of the coolest match stipulations ever, and the fact that we finally got it on the WWE's main roster was just a dream come true for many fans, myself included. However, tradition would dictate that a War Games match would have a roof, and that it would be the match beyond. And furthermore than that, from a booking standpoint, War Games is traditionally used to get a babyface a major win over a dominant heel champion without giving him the belt. It's really a clever bit of booking. And while this match didn't do any of that, I have to say I still loved it anyway, and it stands as one of the best War Game matches there ever was. And a big part of it all comes down to story. The story between the honorary Uce Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens was just so compelling that it made you forget how many times you've already seen these two wrestle, and it made you forget that they weren't doing things the way the NWA always did them. And furthermore, this kicked off as the absolute peak of the Bloodline saga, as stemming from this going to the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, nothing with the Tribal Chief has been as good ever since. And so between absolutely great storytelling and historic precedents, this match had to be close to the top of this list. But as good as that was, it's not quite at the top. But you know what is? Well, that leads us to... And at the number one spot, we have Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, Survivor Series 1996. Now, if you've been watching this channel for a long time, and if you know me at all, this should not be a surprise to you in any way, as this is one of my absolute all-time favorite matches, well, ever, and I'm just a really big Bret Hart and Steve Austin fan, especially when you put the two of them against each other. Now, I've sung this bout's praises plenty, as I think that this is the Hitman at some of his absolute best, and I also feel that that it really showcased what Austin could do by combining his Smash Mouth style with technical know-how, being the perfect blend of character work as well as in-ring ability. So if you're one of those people that think Austin did nothing but punch and kick, watch this match. It's definitely going to change your mind. This match is the absolute best that Survivor Series has ever seen, and even if we were including elimination matches, I would still rank this at the top. I love this match so much that I even like it more than the WrestleMania 13 bout, and that's really saying something. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I really hope you liked it, and if you did, please leave a like and be subscribed to this channel, and also tell me what your favorite non-Survivor Series matches were down in the comments. And just in case some of you are wondering, no, the Elimination Chamber match in 2002 and the Montreal Screwjob in 1997 are not making this list. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and thank you to my amazing Patreons out there, and as always, Dave knows.